Hey, Angel fans, welcome back to Halo Territory. I am Mike DiGiovanna, former LA Times baseball writer and host of the show, joined by Mark Trumbo, our regular co host and the former Angel slugger, and Sam Blum of The Athletic back with us. Welcome back, Sam. How's everybody doing today?
Great to be back.
Great to have you,
Talented
Sam.
young writer.
Very talented. And he's still pretty young. So the Angels took 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati this week. But as often is the case with our Angels, it was a little messy and had a little drama. Angels are up 9-0 going into the bottom of the 8th on Sunday. Give up 3 in the 8th, 3 more in the 9th on a Ellie De La Cruz 3-run homer. They have to bring Drew Pomerantz into the game to get a couple of big outs, and Drew was able to close it out. But of course, the closer, Jordan Romano, and what was once a 9-run game, was warming up. Shouldn't affect his availability for the Yankees series, but I don't know. Does that kind of take the edge off what was a pretty good weekend for the Angels, guys?
Yes.
I don't know. Do you think so? Okay, I'll let you go. I'm gonna be Mr. Positive.
I beat you. I beat you once. Yeah, no. I honestly, it doesn't take the edge off. No, not really. Soriano, another fantastic start. Utterly dominant. I can talk a little more about him in a second, but that game was in the bag. Cincinnati, the record going into it was pretty respectable, but their hitting not good. And against Soriano, nobody's is. But at the end, they started to string something together, and Bachman got into the game. He scuffled a bit, and then unfortunately, Pomerantz gave up a 3-run homer, necessitating Romano to come in and pitch, as you said. So,
Actually, Romano didn't pitch; he was warming. Pomerantz got the last bit, didn't he? Yeah, but yeah, Nick Salmon too. His debut with the Angels this year, finally up with the team. Also had a rough 8th inning as well. Chase Silseth had a rough Saturday, and as you said, Sam Bachman. Those are 2 young arms who had done pretty well in the first week and a half, 2 of the season. Mark, you think it was just one of those cases today with Sam where, coming into a game with a big league, not a leverage situation, just wasn't attacking hitters. His stuff seemed okay.
It's kind of one of those weird things. So I was slightly distracted, in all honesty. I know Romano didn't pitch. I thought I was hearing something. The Masters is going on and all this other stuff. With Bachman, as a team, like the pitching staff, quick notes say that the Angels are second in the league in walks. So that, unfortunately, is in the cards for many guys. Bachman's not immune, and Silseth the other day had a rough go of it. I don't know quite what to make of that, but it was with Sam. It's just pounding the strike zone. It's going to be the same rhetoric with him, with Klassen, with Urania, with Kikuchi, and with Detmers. I think all these guys are candidates to improve in that regard because. And on the flip side, the Angels are getting walked at just a crazy pace. They had 7-9 today. The starter, I guess, Abbott, looks like he has regressed pretty big in All-Star team last year, and he didn't look sharp at all today. He's usually got a pretty good fastball, but not the case. They were all over him and got out to a quick lead. Would have been nice to shut him out, but. Kind of, at the end wasn't as good, but that's they won a series first time in a long time. It looked like Lackey was on the last team that won a series in Cincinnati. So
that's telling me something. Yeah, there's an interesting stat with the walks from Matt Birchie. The Angels are on 26 walks in this series at Cincinnati, which tied the franchise records for walks in a 3-game series. And I think Zach Neto walked 3 times today. I'm pretty sure he hasn't done that too often in his career. Sam, are you seeing maybe a new level of patience from these hitters this year?
Well, I just think the Angels are very much like a 3 true outcomes offense. And last year when they struggled, they were much more 2 true outcomes, right? It was either strikeout or hit a home run. And so when you're walking, I mean, what I think you saw in this weekend was a lot of good at bats, and there's a tough team to get out when they're drawing walks. That first inning today against Abbott was kind of just moving the line along, which I thought was a good sign for them. But I mean, ultimately, I think when you strike out as much as they do, you won't succeed with that type of offense. I don't think just hitting home runs, striking out, and walking is sustainable. There's too many rallies that are going to get kind of just stymied that way. But when things are going well, you're walking more. I mean, it was not like a really great series to watch in that regard. I mean, especially on Saturday, it was just both teams. I think there was like almost like 20 combined walks and hit by pitch. So just not really good baseball. But yeah, I mean, I think going back to the bullpen, that's to me going to be their biggest area of concern. I mean, I think they're overworking them a little bit. You talked about Chase Silseth coming in and just looking like he shouldn't be in the game, and he's pitched almost like more than half the game so far, I think. So he's in there a lot. And when you have to, like you said, you're up 9-0. That's not you don't want to have to start using some of these guys, because now you got a lot of games in a row here. They have 4 in New York, and you fly all the way back west, and so it's just it's a lot of games. You can't be taxing your bullpen. It's already not like a really big strength of this team, but if you have there are certain elements of the way they're playing right now that I think are probably better than expected, at least over the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, we talked about this 3 true outcomes on a couple of shows recently, and yeah, they're still leaning heavily toward that type of offense. But I thought the first inning today, they were definitely not a 3 true outcome team. I think they had 5 singles in that rally. They moved. We talked about how you put pressure on a defense, and we talked about base running, aggressive base running. But I think just having guys on base and having guys pitch out of the stretch puts pressure on a defense. And to me, the biggest at-bat of the game happened in that first inning. Nolan Shanwell against what we thought going in was a pretty good left-hander in Andrew Abbott just goes with a pitch and strokes a nice 2-run single in the left center field. Not only scores 2, but keeps that chain moving. And I think they scored 3 or 4 in that first inning. Was that one of the better at-bats we've seen this year, Mark?
I think you just answered the question.
Yeah.
I think I tend to do that, but true. You know what? It was nice to see, and it is contrary to what I was maybe going to make this point. Sam, would you be surprised? This is a somewhat of a BTH territory, but per Savant, the Angels are first in the league in under contact. So basically hitting the ball in the air. They are first in pull-oriented contact. They're 25th in exit velocity. They lead the league in Ks, and they're 5th in walks. But the first 2 stats line up with what, and we will get to it in the fan mailbag, but, many have noticed they hit the ball in the air and to the pull side a lot. And the stats confirm that. So when I was looking at it, I expected them to be high. I didn't expect them to necessarily be in the lead, but they are. So that same approach that we've seen the last couple of years, despite, some new voices, it appears to be kind of the way that these guys operate, which is kind of a binge and purge offense.
Yeah.
So far I think they've held their own, but it can make it tough. And, Neto is a guy that is extremely gifted and extremely talented at pulling the ball. There's some other guys like Nolan. This was a nice at bat for him. I think he should use the whole field. He should stay in the middle of the field. Early on, the exit velocities and the bat speed haven't really proven out. A quick glance at some of the advanced metrics, they're kind of, Nolan, which is not to say it's a bad thing, but I think he should stick in this realm. That at bat right there is the best version of him. I've seen him cut loose a little bit more. He's not done a good job of challenging with the ABS. I think he's 0 for 4, and the defense left something to be desired behind Klassen. So that was one of those things. Still early in the year, but O'Hoppe a couple hits today, which was nice to see. And Trout, that Trout's hit was actually really cool to me. That was vintage Trout. It wasn't blasted, but he stayed inside it and was able to hit a single up the middle. He used to get a ton of those. So it looks like the version of him. I didn't see too many of those hits last year. So that's a positive sign. Not so positive, Soler smashing a ball off of Mike's. It looked like his up, but I don't know if you saw that, Sam, but a foul ball.
Yeah, I did.
Crazy.
It's yeah, man. It's just like Mike Trout needs some better luck. I feel like it's just the ball is finding him, man.
Not in the best ways. He did. I think he was 4 for 33 before that RBI double in the second too. Talk about he did pull it, but he ripped it down the line. I don't know. Maybe that's a good sign for Trout. He's definitely not He had a great first couple of games, but it definitely doesn't look like the Mike Trout of old. Maybe that's a sign that he's going to break out a little bit. And welcome back to Halo Territory. I'm Mike DiGiovanna with Mark Trumbo and Sam Blum. Well, Jose Soriano, what a game he had Sunday. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 runs, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts. On the season, he's now 4-0 with a major league best 0.33 ERA. In 27 innings, he's given up 9 hits, 1 earned run, 31 strikeouts, 9 walks. And then this one of those crazy stats that I'm guessing this was another Matt Birch special. Jose Soriano is the first player in American League history to pitch 6+ innings with 1 or fewer runs allowed and 3 or fewer hits allowed in each of his first 4 games of a season.
It's
Once
nice when
again,
Matt Birch has like really exciting information to tweet out instead of having to kind of make up something that makes the Angels look good.
Yeah, good for Matt Birch. I know his Arizona basketball team took a tough loss last
Yeah.
week, but good on you, Matt Birch, for that stat. We've talked about Soriano being a budding ace, and clearly he's the ace of the Angel staff. And I want to clarify something for our viewers. Like when I've talked about Soriano being a potential ace, I've sort of looked at it in the context of like that Andy McCullough, the Aces Project story for the Athletic. Yeah, he's clearly the Angels' best pitcher right now, but is he starting to get into that range where we start to think of him as one of the better pitchers in baseball? Once again, it's only 4 starts, but you have to like this kid's trajectory. What are you guys seeing from this kid, stuff-wise? And he just looks like a horse out there. And I was so impressed. He had 81 pitches through 5 innings, and you're thinking, oh man, he's dealing, but he's really not efficient. Then he has a 4-pitch 6th inning. So that was really impressive to me. What do you guys like about this guy right now?
I think it's obviously legit. I mean, it's 4 starts. I think this, he's gone from someone who's like a fringe ace to probably someone who's putting himself quickly in the, all-star starting conversation where, you can't even start to think about Cy Young at this point. But if you stay on this trajectory, certainly why not? I think the thing with Soriano is he's cutting back on the walks. He's using his fastball more, which is leading to more strikeouts. He's going deeper in games, working efficiently. I think he's got 27 innings in the first 4 starts. To me, the thing that we've seen from Soriano that you kind of have to keep an eye out for is when he gets later in the season. That's when he kind of starts to, has had his struggles. So you want to be cognizant of how much he's pitching. At this pace, he's probably close to like a 200 something inning pace. So to keep him good for the whole season, I think will be something they need to be cognizant of. But right now, yeah, I mean, he's pitching better than anyone in the game right now. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, he's just almost impossible to score off. I think Baldwin hit a homer just kind of, and took like a ball above the zone and just kind of turned on it. But other than that, he isn't even allowed to. I mean, anything. I mean, really anything. He's not walking anybody. He's just kind of dominating.
Yeah. Mark, you talked about his use of the 4-seamer a lot more this year. Is that setting up his off speeds, the splitter and the knuckle curve a little better?
Well, in true fashion for us, the timing today went back to more sinkers. So, yeah, right. No, what he did do is he's still using. He's got a 4-pitch mix, and I think he's really refined it. I guarantee somebody, or this is not by accident. His pitch usage has changed, and his knuckle curve makes me glad I'm retired, because I just don't see any way to hit that pitch right now. It is absolutely filthy. It is as good a breaking ball as I've seen in a very long time. And when he does, both fastballs are very effective. He was a death on left-handed hitters today. One of the advanced stats, or they give grades out at the end. I'll give credit, or maybe in the footnotes. But he got an A+ against lefties. It's a newer expert, but it does a nice job of breaking down what guys are doing. I think the opposing pitcher got an F today, and it grades the stuff plus and the outing as a whole. So like Kochanowicz was not graded quite as high the other day, stuff wise, but then because he was able to limit the damage, and he also did a very nice job, very good game out of him. So as far as Soriano, there's no question, unless I I don't see any reason why he would take a huge step back. Even a slight regression is still, you know, there's not too many guys. I mean, he might be the best pitcher in the game currently. It's 4 starts in, too early to yada yada. But you know what? Find somebody better. Find somebody else that you guys are struggling that mightily against.
Do you think it's the split against the lefties that's making him so effective, or is it more pitch mix? Can you tell as a hitter?
I think that thing that makes guys really tough in the aces, and I've said it before, is the ability to have 3 pitches. Now he's got 4. The split is not used quite as often, but you never know what's coming. And he's probably a guy that can lean on. He is mixing it up early. It's kind of a newer thing in years past, and I heard Showalter talking about it the other day. Buck Showalter, that is, with Curt Schilling trying to get through 3 innings with his fastball alone. You just don't see that anymore. Guys don't do that. Soriano doesn't need to do that. But him and Nohappy are really a good thing right now.
Yeah.
Why or how? Maybe we can get a little more info. Maybe you guys can ask. But if he keeps it going, it's awesome. Now, he's not going to be able to pitch this coming series against the New York Yankees. So some of the other guys that have been, okay so far are going to have to step up.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little more about Jack Kochanowicz, who had a great start on Friday. But you mentioned Logan O'Hoppe, and I want to talk a little bit about Saturday's game. Logan, he just seems to be a magnet for controversy this year. There was that big, failure to challenge in Houston, but I think it was the 8th inning. Check swing on a 2-strike pitch. Ball goes back to the backstop. He's looking back at the first base ump to get some kind of ruling, and he's laid out of the box. I guess he actually beat the throw to first, but then he's ruled out for being inside the baseline. Leads to Kurt Suzuki's first ejection of the year. Well, that just seemed like a whole messed up play from the start. I assume, did you guys see that play, and how did you sort of read it?
Yeah, I mean, I get it because like your instinct is to see what the umpire says. You don't want to maybe tip your hand that you think you swung. I don't know, but I think in general, like your instinct needs to be to run out of the box on that play. Now, I mean, they called him safe and it led to the ejection. I mean, looking at the replay, it looked like he was out anyway. So I don't know. But I mean, to me, this just like the instinct is, needs to be just to run. It's, I mean, and I think he had a really tough time with like Silseth. I mean, there was like, I think 3 or 4 wild pitches in that sequence.
Three
Maybe he could have
wild
got it.
pitches.
Yeah. So it was a little rough go of that. Saturday was just an ugly game for them. But I mean, with all the walks, with the wild pitches, with that mistake, I mean, just you see it a couple. I mean, O'Hoppe's like had some good instincts when it comes to like challenging pitches. I think overall he's really high percentage on that front. But yeah, I mean, there's just sometimes he does things and you're like, feels like it's just it's not clicking perfectly. But it's hard to judge him too on some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Mark, as a hitter, is it just natural to look to that first base up in that situation?
It's an awkward play. Like Sam said, I probably wouldn't be too keen to err on the side of admitting, well, I guess it would be a strikeout. But the hustle was the effort, left something to be desired. I think, there were some comments about it online, as there are comments about literally everything. That play, I don't have a strong opinion on that. One thing I would like to see improve is the blocking of the balls. The one knee stance, it's if you've listened at all, it's not a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
And ultimately what I see are just a lot, basically only glove saves. Now there have been some, but to me, it's just, you've done this for 40 years. You've seen some of the best catchers in the game. Do you think it's as reliable to lean on the glove, trying to essentially like a first baseman kind of pick it, as opposed to using the whole body and you have all that gear?
I mean, most catchers, when I was coming up as a writer, they're always taught to shift their body, to block that ball in the dirt, get your body in front of it. And yeah, I mean, when you lunge for the ball with your glove on that, like if you're on one knee and a righty throws a ball into the left-handed batter's box and you lunge for it with your glove, those catchers used to be called lazy. And now it's just part of the game. So it's kind of strange how Yeah, we probably need to do a whole show on catching. I don't know if we need to get Soch back on, but it might last for 3 hours if we did. But yeah,
Well,
the
the one
whole
knee, the idea is trying to get underneath those pitches, and with the ABS, like I don't think, and I think umpires are hyper aware. They should probably always have been, but probably are really on guard for these close pitches now.
yeah.
So I'd like to see the game as a whole. What I need to watch some other teams and see how their catchers are doing it. One thing too, it's leaving him exposed to a lot of foul tips. I think he's worn a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah, he's finally
nasty ones
moved.
off the hips and thighs
Yeah.
and stuff.
He finally moved his hand behind him after spring training.
Okay.
That was good. Yeah, I feel like I'm okay with the one knee when the bases are empty, but when there's guys on, man, you need mobility. You got maybe a potential stolen base threat. You got to be on your toes, literally and figuratively. We'll get to Jack K in a bit, but we got to talk about young George Klassen again. Rough day Saturday. Lot of chatter on social media. What is this kid even doing here? Full disclosure, I don't know the Angel system as well as I used to. I probably need to learn a little more. Sam, is there really any other option at this point besides young George? And for Mark, we'll start with you, Sam. What are the dangers of leave? Well, they sent him down today, but if you leave this kid exposed for more beatings like that, it just doesn't seem good in the long run.
We got to let Sam cook on this one. Let him cook.
Well, this just goes back to everything. This is my number one criticism of the Angels. I mean, to me, well, there's I don't know if that's true. There's a lot of criticisms, but to me, this is right up there because you first off, I mean, he threw I think 68 pitches in the first 2 innings. So you're not, and then they stick him back out there in the third. He immediately walks another guy. Again, they're making decisions based on their needs in this moment, and ultimately the reason why they have to use him and that they're choosing to use him, is they don't really have a ton of other options on their 40-man roster because their 40-man roster is stocked with other pitchers just like him, who are young, who probably have come up at one point or another and struggled in some capacity or aren't ready, and they also didn't really go out and acquire any starting pitching that was usable. Right now, Alek Manoah. I mean, this is a guy who doesn't look like he's really a big league pitcher at this point. I mean, we'll see what happens, but kind of the early returns on him from spring training. Grayson Rodriguez, injury history, always was going to be a risk. They didn't really go ahead and just kind of get a guy that can eat innings, that can be a fifth guy, and that's really what they needed. And so instead, now you're kind of piecing together with your top prospects who aren't really ready. And I'm not saying George Klassen will be damaged forever by like this pretty difficult experience of coming up and just walking everybody in his first 2 starts, but it doesn't do anything for the team. It doesn't do anything for him. And the only reason they're doing it is because they don't really have anybody else that they can just go and stick in that rotation. And now they're going to probably have, I mean, it's the same thing with Ryan Johnson. His first start was kind of mirroring the first 2 starts by Klassen. A lot of walks. Looks like a guy who wasn't ready to be starting big league games. So yeah, that's my takeaway. I think the Angels just continuously do damage to a lot of their young starting pitching. Now you see Kochanowicz, hopefully he's turning a corner. Hopefully there's this guy's figured something out. There's good pitching coaches, maybe at least in the major leagues right now that are, be able to put their stamp on him. But it's still, I mean, I think he's another kind of case of someone that came up a little bit quick and didn't do very well at the start. So at least his first few outings. So I think this is just an issue with their system. I think that a lot of people internally feel the same way about this. I'm not speaking out of turn. I mean, I think that they make this mistake at their own peril, and it's exciting when a couple guys do well, but over the long term, there are reasons why this Perry Manassian and this front office have struggled to develop good starting pitching. And I know people are going to point to Jose Soriano. I said it last time I was on here. The first thing that this front office did was let Jose Soriano walk to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And they are fortunate to have him back, and they have developed him, but they're lucky that they got the chance.
I give them credit. They sent George down today or Sunday, and you think 2 starts is not going to be as damaging to his psyche mark as maybe if he let him wear it for 3, 4, 5 starts like this.
I don't think it's. You don't know. I don't know. He seems pretty resilient. He said the right things. He owned it. Here's one thing that I can offer, and I asked an ex-teammate who was excellent with pitching mechanics, because I saw it myself, and I wasn't, as I wasn't a pitcher, people like to pounce on, those that get out of line. But with the mechanics, what I was seeing is his glove side, his glove in particular. Gooby talked about his front side flying open. But what I saw, and this is getting technical, but apparently people like this stuff, he really doesn't have any anchor, meaning his glove. Mark Pryor would be the extreme example. It was a Tom House method, but your glove is kind of stopping your momentum, but you got to keep it in front of the chest. With George, he is not his soft. What I was told is he's got a very soft front side, leading to his head getting significantly over onto the left side of his body. If you look at a shot from behind, and that is a very difficult way to throw strikes repeatedly. So his whole momentum is kind of going off to the left, and yes, his shoulder is too, but his everything else. And what I was told is probably a byproduct of chasing velocity, max effort. And I personally think he'd be a lot more effective, maybe 93 to 96. But the stuff and all this stuff plus, you grade out really well when you're sitting at 98. Yeah. But for command purposes, I very few guys really benefit from, just going at it full bore. I think George would be a guy that he needs to play with it. He needs to find a reliable pitch. Maybe it's a cutter, maybe it's something else, but he can't get just, behind in these counts and these 4-pitch walks. It needs to start looking more like Soriano, and I said it before, he's probably a guy that could get away with setting up, or with Logan setting up down the middle. You don't need to work corners. There's no reason to, because he's not capable of hitting them at this point anyway. He's got a ways to go. I think Urania has a further ways to go. Caden Dana, I'm not sure where he is. Sam Aldeguerri, rough go of it so far. So I think a lot of people have noticed that we would have benefited, and I say we, the Angels, from having an additional Savali type starter. Even Kyle Hendricks eating innings. You need somebody to eat those innings and keep you somewhat in these games to give your offense a chance. And Ryan Johnson and George have really struggled in these games, have gotten out of reach.
Yeah. Well, we'll close the show with another bright spot in the rotation. Jack Kochanowicz got that series in Cincinnati off to a great start. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, a little high, 2 strikeouts. Outpitched a pretty good pitcher in Chase Burns in a 10-2 win over the Reds. And what are you guys seeing from Jack? And we've talked a little bit about his. I think his pitch mix has changed a little bit. Mark, how would you evaluate his start so far? And
I'd like to hear what Sam Blum thinks.
No, I mean, listen, I think Jack Kochanowicz is a guy who can make a difference in this rotation. He's kind of like the swing guy for them, in my opinion. If he's going to struggle, I mean, him and Detmers are kind of in that boat. I think, like, if these guys are, I mean, if Kochanowicz, who was probably worst starter in baseball last year for as long as he was in the rotation, if he's going to be that guy, if he's going to be close to that guy, I mean, I think this is going to be a really long season for the Angels. If they have, you have Soriano, Kikuchi's going to, at the very minimum, give you innings, be somewhat solid. Like, if you have a couple other guys that are keeping you in games, they have a chance to overperform, I think, at least certainly what I expected of them this year and what others did. But, I mean, Kochanowicz, I think he's had 3 starts. His first one was really rough. But he really locked in, against the Reds. And I mean, he's the kind of pitcher that people kind of doubt as a starter. Can he, does he have the pitch mix? Does he, can he get strikeouts? Can he miss bats? He didn't always need to do that in his first stint in the big leagues. I don't think he needs to be that guy to be able to last as a starting pitcher. He can be efficient. He can work 7, 8 innings and keep it below 100 pitches if he's, generating the contact that he needs to. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we saw on Friday. I think there's an avenue for that to exist in his game. And, for me, I hope, for him that he's able to figure it out and be someone that's, not dragging the team and can actually really help them.
What do you got, Mark?
I've been high on him all year. Not taking any credit. I liked some of the social clips I saw over the winter. It looked like a better delivery, in my opinion. He's a big guy. He's got a lot of moving parts, and he's kind of not really talked about as, for whatever reason, I think, as he doesn't generate as many whiffs, but a power pitcher. He throws upper 90s, and he's got an improving breaking ball. So I think the pieces are all there. Sam, maybe it was, I'm a guy on the couch watching now. I'm not plugged in, but it didn't seem like him and Ron well, last year you were there. Everyone knows you were there. It seemed like Ron Washington and him didn't. Maybe it's not a sensational story there, but a lot of frustration at times, and it's probably just because he struggled on the mound. But it just didn't seem like he last year really got any momentum going, and I remember when he got taken out of the game, it looked like he was angry and as he should have been, but over the top a little bit. And I kind of wondered if there was friction that was palpable or just part of the game.
I mean, I think that there was maybe some frustration for the fact that like he was, he came in and I think he felt like he needed to miss a lot of bats and like that. I think I mean, it's tough to say if there was like tons of frustration with Wash, and he obviously didn't manage most of the season last year. I think, yeah, I mean, to some extent, I think there was, some friction between just players in general and the coaching staff at times, and it just was an ugly year. It was, it didn't play out the way that they at least kind of telegraphed. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak it too authoritatively on that particularly because I don't know exactly what was in everyone's head. But I think that Kochanowicz coming in and maybe feeling like he needed to be a different type of starting pitcher than the one that had been pretty successful in the latter part of 2024, and now he needed to miss more bats. He ended up walking just a ton of guys last year, and I think the frustration, if anything, is probably more on himself. We're seeing him change things up a little bit this year, and throw his changeup more and just be a little bit different pitcher. And I don't know. I think he can pitch to contact pretty effectively, and that's what keeps him in games longer. And as long as he's not allowing like home runs and really hard contact like he was for long periods of last season.
Yeah.
Second least home runs allowed, Angels pitchers.
Yeah.
True.
Well, they have
Angels
two ground ball pitchers, so they have two guys that just only allow grounders.
Yeah, they've actually had some pretty good stats. I wrote a few of them down. They're leading major leagues in walks. They're leading the major leagues in strikeouts. They're
first in quite a few categories.
Tied for third in home runs. So, two of those three true outcomes aren't all terrible. And their pitching has only allowed 10 home runs, tied for the second fewest. They've struck out 146, and Soriano has a lot to do with that, tied for sixth. They've walked 86, second most in baseball, which seems kind of strange. And their ERA is about 3.9. It's 3.99 going into the Yankee series, so right about middle of the pack. But yeah, there's some good things going on. They're 500, which we've talked about it. A 500 record would be a major step in the right direction for this team this year. We'll close the show with that. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe. And Angels will open a 4-game set in Yankee Stadium Monday night, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that later in the week. We'll see you next time on Halo Territory.